All right, this is the copyright disclaimer. The copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Fair use, fair use, fair use. Medical disclaimer. This video is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Always consult with your physician before starting any exercise program or anything contained in this video. Always stop if you experience any pain, discomfort, or difficulties performing anything described in this video.
Two black families have just filed a lawsuit against the federal government because their babies were used as test subjects in a vaccine trial without their parents' consent. Tissue from their 1960s autopsies was used to develop an RSV vaccine, now generating billions of dollars in revenue. But if you know history, you know this has happened before. In the 1840s, a doctor named J. Marion Sims performed repeated painful vaginal surgeries on three enslaved black women, Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsy, without their consent and without anesthesia. They call him the father of modern gynecology. From 1932 to 1972, black men infected with syphilis were deliberately left untreated in the Tuskegee experiment so the government could observe the disease destroying their bodies. In 1951, cancer cells were taken from a black woman named Henrietta Lacks without her consent and used to generate billions of dollars in medical research. In the 1990s, black and Latino boys here in New York City were injected with a dangerous drug called fenfluramine to test whether their brain chemistry could predict criminal behavior. And in 2021, we learned that remains of victims of the 1985 MOVE bombing, when Philadelphia police dropped a bomb on a black neighborhood, had been used in Ivy League classrooms without the family's consent. Historian Harriet Washington documents many of these incidents in her book, Medical Apartheid. But this is not ancient history. So what can we do? Demand criminal accountability from the researchers, demand reparations for black families, and demand federal law to stop this from happening again.
We have the honor of representing the families of Ross Otto and Victor King. Their family members are present here with us, and they will speak before you as we talk about this, what we believe historic lawsuit that is being filed against the United States government. Ross Otto, Henrik, and Victor King were two black babies who were used as guinea pigs, as lab rats, in a very targeted effort by the United States government. This follows a long history of the medical society and the United States government experimenting on black bodies as what we believe was an epidemic of medical racism. It follows the lineage of the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. It follows the tradition of Henrietta Lacks and little assault guinea pigs and lab rats. It follows using black soldiers in World War II, giving them faulty gas masks and having their body deteriorate in gas chambers. It follows black women bodies being sterilized when they went in for routine medical procedures in the South, known popularly as the Mississippi appendectomy, the most famous victim being the civil rights icon Fannie Lou Hamer, who said, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." But today, talking about these black babies, Ross Otto Hambrick, and
This is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 10, and it reads, "For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rahakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching me this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be likened to the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Ayashar Barazal from the Indianapolis branch of the Great Millstone, coming back at you with another lesson that is edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. And I have this article here, just came across Newsweek a few days ago, finally got to it. Newsbreak. And, more experiments on Jake, in the 60s. I mean, these people have not stopped experimenting on us. When I say these people, that's Esau Edom, the so-called white man and his system. All factions of government. This is where we are, Jake. This is where we are. You keep running and asking the same system for reparations, and they are responsible for why you're asking for it. If they did not intend to do these things, if they intended to do these things, their payment was to investigate to see what the outcome was going to be, not to repay you for it, even though they have been found guilty. All right, but this is what you are dealing with, and you keep running to those polls thinking things are going to change. They are not. They are not. We are in captivity in this place, okay? Subject to the payments for our transgressions against Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. We've been turned over to these devils, and the more of these videos that I do either individually or collectively, it's really starting to settle in that as a nation of people, we truly fucked up. Seeing the shit that has been done through us throughout history, and we're just over the 200 video, and it's ridiculous, some of the stuff that we faced, mutilations, burnings, whole communities destroyed. This is letting you know how critical that covenant was. We made it at Mount Sinai, okay? And then again at Horeb, it was nothing to play with. And Jay continued to be wicked, We promised as a nation, and it didn't work out, especially considering what we're seeing today. And they're trying to make it worse as they know that their time is getting short. They're repealing in reverse order the 15th, 14th, and going after the 13th Amendment. This is where we are right now, and Jake is having every opportunity to repent. Learn the true name of the Heavenly Father and His Son. The name of the Father, Yahweh, meaning He is, He exists. Okay, and the name of His Son, Yahweh Shai. Okay, He saves, He delivers. All right, those are the only names given unto man under heaven where which salvation can come, according to Acts 4:12. All right, that's it. But you got to turn back, because there is a definite evil coming upon this earth. Okay, and right now these curses are starting to flip on Esau. All right, but 2/3 of our people are going to be caught up in that. For all of your wickedness. But yeah, this is just yet another story that has been uncovered where they have been experimenting on us. And my first time hearing about this one, but the evidence is out there, and I'm sure this attorney, Ben Crump, wouldn't have presented it if there was no evidence. Okay, so yeah, it's going back to that scripture: "For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever." Basically, we look at the history of this wicked people, Esau, Edom, and they are the wicked according to the scriptures, Malachi 1:4. Okay, they have put hell on the Israelites, here and abroad, wherever we're scattered to. Okay, and it says, for that, your shame is going to cover you. Okay, you're not going to get away from it. All right, and after that, you're going to be cut off forever. Okay, you will be going extinct after you serve in slavery twice as long and twice as hard as we did. Okay, but in righteousness, but in righteousness, you won't be experimented on. You certainly won't be buck broken. Okay, we won't be cutting babies' bellies out of the womb, but you are going to serve hardcore slavery. Okay, in the sun. In the sun. Yeah. Back in our, near or around about our homeland, you will be in the sun, and there will be no such thing as sunscreen. All right, that's going to be enough punishment within itself, but it's going to be far short, for whatever the Lord has in store for us to do to you, as you did unto us. Okay. Colossians 3:25 says, "For he that doeth wrong must receive for the wrong that which he hath done. There is no respect of persons." So we're not trying to hear shit about, your ancestors. Those were your ancestors. You had nothing to do with that, because the scriptures make it clear you're going to have to pay for it. All right, let me grab that. This is in let's see here. I'll leave my Bible app open. I thought I did. No, I did not. Well, let me get my Bible app. Isaiah 14:1. (14, 21, 22). And it reads, "Prepare slaughter for his children, the descendants, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities." You will never be in rulership again. Ever. Once this is over, you will never be in rulership again. Okay? We're exactly, 30, what's today? 31, 32 days away from America's 250th anniversary. Every major empire has had an average lifespan of 250 years. America will be 250 years July 4th, 2026. All right? And we already see stuff starting to happen. All right? It says, for I will rise up against them, verse 22, for I will rise up against them, saith Yahweh Bashem Yahushai of hosts, as the Lord of armies, and cut off from Babylon the name, no more Edomites, and the remnant, whoever's left over, and the son, the male, and the nephew, the male. So that's the entire seed line, okay, being cut off forever. All right. No more Esau, Edom, aka no more so-called white people, and that includes you chocolate-covered Edomites. Yeah, you don't get away. You don't get away. All right. If a so-called white man slept with a so-called black woman, and that child came out looking like that woman or someone on the side of her family, you're still an Edomite. Okay. The nation is determined by the seed of the father. You get that in Numbers 1 and 18. Okay. But your time is up for everything that you've done. This is Jeremiah 49 and 10. I'll get into the article. It says, but I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. That's right. All of your past history is coming out. You know, bestiality, pedophiles, okay, homos, you know, abusers of women. Okay, even on your own women are starting to tell on you now, but they're not innocent either. But yeah, this is what's about to happen to you. It says his seed is spoiled, and his brethren, and his neighbors, and he is not. You will be no more. Once this kingdom comes down, after your slavery, you will be no more in existence. All right, let me get to the article. And I'll put a link to this article in the description box of the video. Like I said, I got it from Newsbreak. It says, Ben Crump files federal lawsuit accusing U.S. government of targeting black infants for secret 1960s vaccine testing. And this is nothing new. We know about the Tuskegee experiment, here in the United States, and then the same thing going on down in Guatemala. Okay, we know what they're doing over there in Africa right now, spreading HIV, AIDS amongst the Africans, chemically castrating them, all right, with population control, all right. This is history, and you're proud of it, all right. It says the key takeaways. Ben Crump filed a federal lawsuit alleging 2 infants were enrolled in a 1960s respiratory syncytial virus, RSV, vaccine trial without family consent. The complaint connects the alleged study to NIH research and raises questions about how the trial was conducted. And that's the same organization that was involved with Dr. Slouchy in 2020. You know what that was, all right? His wife was actually the president over it. Or have some involvement in it with it, You can look that up to be for sure. All right, it says the claims were previously examined in a 2023 Undark investigation, and attorneys plan to address the case publicly in Washington, D.C. Okay. It says civil rights attorney Ben Crump is representing the families of 2 black infants in a federal lawsuit accusing the U.S. government of allegedly using the children in experimental RSV vaccine trials, during the 1960s without their families' knowledge or consent. Man. It says, RSV is a common respiratory virus that can cause serious breathing complications in infants, older adults, and people with underlying health conditions. Today, RSV vaccines are primarily recommended for older adults, high-risk individuals, and pregnant people to help protect newborns from severe illnesses. And I'll stop right here and just make it a point again. The medical disclaimer was declared at the beginning of this video. This is not giving any advice, so on and so forth, okay? It's at the beginning of this video. All right. It says, according to a press release from Ben Crump Law, the complaint states that the infants Ross Otto Hambrick and Victor Marcellus King were secretly enrolled in an NIH-sponsored vaccine study before both boys died in January of 1967. Now, nearly 60 years later, their families are demanding accountability from the federal government over what attorneys describe as a disturbing chapter in American medical history. No, it's not disturbing. It is a willful pattern. As what was mentioned in the first video, the book called Medical Apartheid. All right. Very, very good book. Documented a whole bunch of stuff that went on with the American medical industry that, hey, the U.S. government funded or was part of in some way, form, or faction, okay? They were a part of it. That's just what it is. And you have to be accountable. All right? So it's not disturbing. It's your truth. All right? It says the lawsuit filed under the Federal Tort Claims Act reportedly alleges that the National Institutes of Health selected black infants from low-income families to participate in a highly concentrated experimental RSV vaccine trial known as Lot 100. Okay? And I'll get a link to that as well, Lot 100, and put it in the description box. Lawyers representing the families claim the boys' tissue samples were later used in research that contributed to RSV vaccines approved by the FDA in 2023. You know what? I'm going to grab that now. Let me go to Chat GPT, Lot 100. Let's see what it says. What was Lot 100 with respect to RSV and its impact? Let's see what it says. All right. It says Lot 100 was a name given to a highly concentrated formalin inactive experimental respiratory syncytial virus RSV vaccine developed in the mid-1960s. It became one of the most important and tragic events in vaccine research history because it did not protect children from RSV and in some cases made subsequent RSV infections much more severe. Okay. It says, what was Lot 100? Researchers grew RSV in cell cultures, inactivated the virus with formalin or formaldehyde, concentrated it, and mixed it with alum adjuvant. You can look that up. The concentrated vaccine batch became known as Lot 100. NIH-sponsored trials began during the 1965-1966 RSV season and involved infants and young children. Okay, so that's consistent with the article so far. It says, what happened? Instead of protecting children, vaccinated children were not protected against RSV infection. When some vaccinated children later encountered RSV naturally, they developed enhanced respiratory disease an exaggerated immune response that made the illness worse than than in unvaccinated children. Hospitalizations rates were dramatically higher among vaccinated infants. 2 young children died following RSV infection after receiving the vaccine, and we're reading about them now. Okay, it says research over the following decades suggested several factors. Number one, the vaccine produced antibodies that battled RSV but did not effectively neutralize it. Number two, formalin treatment altered important viral proteins, causing the immune system to learn the wrong targets. Wow. It says the vaccine promoted an imbalanced immune response, often described as Th2 skewed response, leading to excessive lung inflammation when RSV infection occurred later. Wow. So it fucked those kids up. In other words, pretty bad. It says impact on RSV vaccine development. The consequences were enormous. RSV vaccine development was set back for decades. Scientists became extremely cautious about RSV vaccines, especially for infants. Okay, not if you're trying to wipe out a population, which is what they're trying to do now. Okay, it says much of modern RSV vaccine research focused on understanding exactly why Lot 100 failed. Safety standards and immune response testing for vaccines were greatly influenced by lessons learned from the Lot 100 experience. Connection to our modern RSV vaccines. The successful RSV vaccines approved in 2023 and afterwards were designed using knowledge gained from decades of research following the Lot 100 failure. So it was a failure, okay? Researchers learned that vaccines must induce the correct type of neutralizing antibodies against the RSV fusion F protein while avoiding the immune mechanisms that caused enhanced disease in the 1960s trials. Recent controversy. In 2026, families of 2 infants who died after participating in the Lot 100 era trials filed a lawsuit alleging that the children were enrolled without proper parental consent and that tissue samples from their autopsies later contributed to RSV research. Okay, that's what that's what this lawsuit is about from Ben Crump. Okay, these allegations are currently the subject of litigation and have not been adjudicated in court. In short, Lot 100 was a failed experimental RSV vaccine whose unexpected enhancement of disease in some children became one of the most influential events in vaccine history, shaping RSV research and vaccine safety science for more than half a century. Whew. Man, yeah. All right, back to the article. It says the release further claims that the families were never fully informed about the experiments and that they were never compensated or publicly acknowledged for the role the children's death reportedly played in decades of RSV research. And that's consistent with what I just read in ChatGPT. All right. It says the legal team is seeking justice on behalf of the Hambrick and King families, demanding full accountability from the United States government, the release stated. Okay. It says Crump is representing the families alongside attorneys William H. Murphy, Jr., Carol Lexing Powell, Malcolm P. Ruff, and Nevaeh Sher. It says the history behind the alleged RSV vaccine experiments on children. The allegations connected to the lawsuits were previously examined in 2023 in a 2023 investigation by Undark, which detailed the early history of RSV vaccine research and the deaths of Hambrick and King. According to the outlet, both children reportedly received doses of the experimental vaccine as infants through programs tied to the Children's Hospital in Washington, D.C. The report also stated that many of the youngest participants in the study were black children from working class families and that informed consent standards during the 1960s were far less regulated than they are today, We're not surprised there is children, King's brother told the Undark in 2023. It's just American history. Point blank, period. All right. It says the attorneys are expected to discuss the lawsuit during a news conference on Thursday, May 28th afternoon, May 28th afternoon in D.C. The federal government has not publicly responded to the allegations. All right, that's the end of the article. Well, I tell you, that government is something else. But what really got me, some of the comments on this article, which you can see through the link. I swear, boy, these so-called Edomites, so-called white people, you got to be some of the most ignorant people in the world, willfully, or just because. But in any case, no sensitivity. But what you guys don't realize, you're an experiment too, and that's what you're finding out. Okay, you're an experiment too. If you're not in that top 1%, you are a tool for these elites. Okay. But in reading those comments, just like Lyndon B. Johnson said, if you can make the lowest white man think he's better than the best black man, he will empty his pockets for you because you give him something to look down on. Roughly paraphrasing. And that's what you believe. Some of those comments were just disgusting. Just totally, with no knowledge, no facts, no nothing. It didn't happen. It was too long ago. Well, there's no statute of limitations on murder. You should know that. But I guess you don't. None whatsoever. But you're going to have to pay for this. All right? But again, those comments, man. What is it, Psalm 73? And I think it's 6. 73 and 6. No, verse 8. And it reads, they are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily. And yeah, you're very, 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 very proud in those comments. Very proud. But it's one of those things they want to see Jake destroyed. The elites know why, and it's in the spirit of the non-elite Edomites. That's an ancient hatred. All right. This is Amos 1:11. All right, and it reads, thus saith Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, for 3 transgressions of Edom and for 4. All right, it says, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever. So yeah, going all the way back to, you selling that birthright. Okay, you still mad about that. All right, and you made that promise. That when Isaac died, that you were going to slay your brother Jacob. All right, that's in Genesis 27. But yeah, you've not have any pity for Jake. Knowingly poisoning him. Okay, experimenting on Jake, day in and day out. All right, and we're seeing this with all of these videos. Constantly infecting Jake and poisoning him. We see it in the water, in the chemtrails that's in the air, in the food. Okay? You just don't get enough. There will be no peace on this earth as long as you exist. It's just that simple. Or as long as you're in a rulership. Okay? Because you will exist in our kingdom, but you have a limited time. Okay? 1,000 years. And then no more you. No more you. Point blank period. This is I believe Job 27, I think. Bear with me. Let's see. Yeah, when that time comes, hey, you're gonna be removed. This is Job 27:20. Terrors take hold on him as waters. A tempest stealeth him away in the night. The east wind carrieth him away, and he departeth as a storm hurleth him out of his place. Yeah, it's gonna be violent when you're out of here. It says verse 22. For Yahweh Bashem Yahushai shall cast upon him and not spare, just like you didn't have any pity on us. In Amos 1:11 says he would fain flee out of his hand. Men shall clap their hands at him and shall hiss him out of his place. So yeah, these other nations gonna be glad to see you gone too. Because you are a terrible nation of people, and it's being shown right now. It's clear as day in real time. Both you and the Amalekites, who are the so-called Ish people, the small hatters today. All right? It's you. You're the criminal. You're the culprit. All right? And you must be dealt with. All right? This is Job, is it 20 that I'm looking for? I believe it is 20. Let me scroll up here. Right. Okay. Several places. It says, verse 4, Job 20:4. Knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment? So yeah, and it's coming to an end right now. All right. It says, though his excellency mount up to the heavens, and his head reach into the clouds. And like you're above everyone right now. Okay. Ruling with an iron fist. Okay. Verse 7 says, yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. They which have seen him shall say, where is he? Verse 8, he shall fly away as a dream and shall not be found. Yea, he shall be chased away as a vision of the night. All right. So yeah, you're going to be eliminated from society. Okay. An outcast. Done to exist no more. In verse 9, it says, the eye also which saw him shall see him no more, neither shall his place in any more behold him. So yeah, you're gone, your lands are gone, so on and so forth. All right. And that's what's going to happen, for this hell that you put on Jake. I mean, experiment on babies, and he died because of that. Yeah, you got some things to pay for. I'm going to close out here with Obadiah chapter 1. And I'm going to start at verse 18. And it says, and the house of Jacob, that's the southern kingdom, shall be a fire. And the house of Joseph, that's the northern kingdom of Israel, shall be a house of Joseph a flame. And the house of Esau, the so-called white man, all right, Esau, Edom, whether you are red, or burnt to a crisp, whatever, or what you want to call yourself, white. Doesn't matter if you're a tear, as long as you're the father of that dark skinned a person is a so-called white man. Yes, they are Edomites too. All right. It says, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble. Yeah. And they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau. For Yahweh Bashem Yahweh have spoken it. All right. So you got a hell of a tab to pay. We don't want your apologies. We don't want your money. That reparations is, hey, well, let me get it. An eye for an eye, eye for an eye. This is the book of Numbers, chapter 35 and verse 33. And it reads, So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land. All right, and you shed a lot of our blood on this land, both southern and northern kingdom. All right. And the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. So yeah, it's about to get real bloody for you, Esau. And how? That's the question. How is it going to get real bloody for you? Well, I got the answer that matches with this. This is the book of Joel, chapter 3, verses 19 through 21. Verse 19, and it reads, Egypt shall be a desolation. All right, and Egypt meaning the house of bondage. And Edom shall be a desolate wilderness. Okay? That's all of your lands, including you too. It says, for the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. All right? You've been very violent to us, shedding our blood on a daily basis, whether it's reported or not. Okay? Verse 20, it says, but Judah shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. All right? Judah dwelling forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. First of all, let's talking about the nation as a whole. Okay? Number one. And then number two, that's the immortality that we seek. Judah shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. Yeah, we're gonna be punctual like that in that day. All right. Yes. So immortality in that verse right there. And it says, for I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for Yahweh Bashem Yahushai has spoken it. So he's going to do that by his people. All right. By his people, the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay. Which includes the 144,000 and innumerable multitude, and anyone who was of the Israelites that was destroyed in that lake of fire or by a spirit of vengeance, you'll be born back into the nation. All right. But yeah, he's going to destroy you, Edom, by the hand of his people. Let's prove that. Ezekiel 25 and in verse 12. And it reads, thus saith Yahweh our power, because that Edom hath dealt against the house of Judah by taking vengeance, and have greatly offended, and revenged himself upon them. Therefore thus saith the Lord power. Okay. I will also stretch out mine hand upon Edom, and I will cut off man and beast from it, and I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword. Verse 14, it says, and I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel, and they shall do in Edom according to mine anger, and according to my fury, and because they know my vengeance, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. So this is what you got to look forward to, Edom, now that we're discovering all this history, Yep. And you loudmouth people that were in those comments, yep, you got it coming to you too. Best believe that. Yep. So best believe you got it. Got it coming. All right. So with that, I hope this lesson was edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. Once again, I'm going to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Ra, Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching me this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be likened to the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners, and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom, Kwam Yasharallah, Abba Babal. Shalom, we got next.